Hey, greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today, we're very fortunate to have our friend Serena here, who is a fellow content creator. She has her own podcast called Diaries, a Dreamcast. And you want to say a little bit about it and give your links?
Thank you so much for welcoming me onto your podcast episode. So I'm Serena. I have a podcast called Diaries, a Dreamcast, where I talk about my dreams from the night before, right after I wake up. So if you're interested in, getting to relax a little bit with a sleepy voice, if you're trying to fall asleep, if you're trying to get inspiration for weird things that happen, go ahead and listen to me there. And I'll have my version or my retelling of this story on my podcast as well.
Right on. Good deal. And they can find you on iTunes, Spotify, and Instagram at Dream Diaries Dreamcast. Good stuff. Well, thank you, very much for joining us here, and we'll just jump straight into it. So you're going to tell us about a dream you had recently. I'm ready to listen, and we'll do the thing. So
this dream started where I was in an RV, and it was a very spacious RV, like the size of my kitchen and my living room right now, which is way wider than a normal RV. And this is owned by my previous roommate and her now husband. So I was like, wow, she's doing well for herself. She has an RV and it's huge, which now that I mention it, it's interesting because she doesn't seem like the outdoorsy type. But we're on a trip together and it's just the three of us right now. And we're on our way to Canada. And this car, it's kind of like a Tesla where it can full self-drive. So once we're on the highway, we go, and none of us have to really keep an eye on the wheel or at the driver's seat. And my friend's husband, he's a gamer, so he brought out his Nintendo 3DS, which is old, right? Like right now everyone's on the Switch, but I for some reason was thinking of a 3DS, and he has multiple game cartridges out. And for some reason, I was like, oh, if I eat this game cartridge, it'll just come back. So I eat it. And it I crunch it in my mouth, and I'm waiting for the cartridge to reappear. And I realized that I misremembered. It's not eating it that will make it come back. It's just pushing it off to the side and it falls through the floor. Then it would come back. Kind of like if you were Mario and you fell and died, you would come back to life, kind of like that. But because I ate it, it didn't come back. So I was like, I might have to buy them a new game or something like that. So we're on our way, and apparently it's going to take 11 hours. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? It should only take 8. And it's because the two places, or the place that we're going to has a similarly named place that is 3 hours 3 hours south of there, and we're driving north. And so when I put it into Google Maps, I had it all wrong. I searched the wrong name on accident, but turns out we're going to the one that's 11 hours away, which is 3 hours north. And at this point, more people jump into the RV. I don't know how they got in there, but now it's 2 other girls who, one of them's a good friend of mine, the other one's her roommate, and friend's husband's friends who I don't really know. And we're all just having a good time. And once we arrive at our destination, I know we're past the border. I don't know if we got all the way to our destination or if this was a rest stop. But we're at some stop, and we get out of the RV, and I go into a hair salon. I think I was trying to look for the bathroom, but I went into the hair salon probably because I wanted to get my hair done or something. In another country, new hair, new me. And I noticed no one's wearing masks, especially during this time of COVID. I felt like it was weird. Is it because we're not in America where everything's kind of crazy right now, but everything is controlled elsewhere? Is that why? And I asked one of the ladies, what's your policy around masks here? And she said, oh, we don't really wear it. We just need to be 6 feet apart. And I was thinking, how are you going to do my hair 6 feet apart? But then I head to the bathroom, and we're safe there because the stalls generally 6 feet apart. And the other three girls also follow me into the bathroom. And this part might get a little like weird TMI, but you know how people, like ladies, they hover over the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to sit on it. I was trying to do, which I never do. I'm not that weird about hovering, so I don't. I just put like toilet paper, and I'd rather cleanly get everything in the toilet. But I tried hovering this time, and it went horribly wrong. Like I missed the toilet bowl. So that happened, and then I suddenly got my period too. But luckily, because I was about to sell some menstrual pads, which is actually what I'm going to do later on in the week. I remembered I had extra stuff in the RV, so I quickly grabbed that, and it saved me. Because as a girl, you never want to be left without some form of protection.
For sure.
When it's your time of the month. And that dream ended. I think there was some running going on in the hair salon, either running to the bathroom or running away from the people who might have COVID, but like that was pretty much the end of it all.
Okay, good deal. Lots of great details there, yeah.
I try.
Performing the miracle of the flatly torn paper. I love it. It doesn't always happen. So, okay, we went through it once, and now we go back through for, I guess, what I've taken to calling the deep dive, where we begin again at the beginning, and we go through it again to try and see if we can get, for two reasons. One, because there's always more details there than people realize when they're just trying to tell the story, but also because I need to be able to maybe see it a little bit better to understand the moving parts. So that's why this is part of my process. So you said the beginning of the dream is there's an RV and you're already inside of it. That's the first image. And it's huge. And you said it's like the size of your living room and your kitchen put together.
And the floors are my living room floor, hardwood.
Okay. Oh, suddenly. Eyelash. Oh. Let's make some. Say, now I'm a pirate. Oh. That came out of nowhere. Okay. RV, huge. Did any other elements of this RV remind you of or look similar to places in your actual house? You said the floor was the same.
The floor, I say that because the bed that would be in the RV, that didn't remind me of anything from my current living situation. It was like, it actually had black sheets on it, and I don't know anyone who has black sheet bed, but it was like a full or queen size.
Interesting. And any other just environmental features that pop into your head when you think about that first look at the surroundings? The size stood out to you, the floor being similar. Now you're kind of remembering there was a bed there, black sheets. What's that all about, huh? Nothing else, chairs, table?
Nothing, no chairs, no table, but I guess there was a kitchen element, and it was an older style oven. Something that you would find in a college town.
Okay. And you were kind of distinctly aware that this was your prior roommate's RV owned jointly with the husband? Like this was theirs together?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it would have been the husband who bought it.
Okay. Okay. And what were they doing? Excuse me. What were they doing when you first arrived? Showing you around? Were they already seated somewhere, having an interaction?
Already interacting in a circle.
So all three of you were together, engaged in some kind of interaction.
Yeah, like probably very shortly after was the 3DS thing.
Do you remember anything about the subject matter you were discussing prior to the 3DS? Just the initial interaction?
No.
Nothing stands out?
No.
Fair enough. Yeah. I do something I call rattling doorknobs. Like, I wonder about that. Nothing? Okay, move on. You said you were aware... The thought came to you as you were describing it that the RV was unusual because she's not typically the outdoorsy type. Is that a thought you had in the dream, or is that a thought you had afterwards looking at like why this doesn't make sense?
Afterwards, like right now.
Okay.
In my dream, it was totally normal. Maybe because the RV was luxurious, I thought, oh, this does fit. It makes sense because they're not bougie people, but I feel like they could afford one or two nice things if they wanted it.
Seemed to fit with her character that if they were going to get an RV, it would be a nice one. She would camp in style and comfort.
Yeah, glamping.
Glamping. I was looking for that word in my head. Yeah. And you were aware that you were going on a trip with them. That was like you just kind of knew that was happening, and that the destination was Canada.
Like very, very north. I also remember it would be a cold place. So, I mean, I know Canada's cold, but it could have potentially been even more north of Canada.
Okay. So you just maybe mentioned Canada as an example of heading that far north. But in your mind at the time, you didn't specifically know you were going to Canada.
Right, yeah. It was just a point on the map.
Okay. Good deal. And then the next thing you mentioned was becoming aware that the RV was self-driving because all three of you were interacting not in the cab up front and no one was driving.
Exactly, yeah. And I've been in Tesla cars before, so that might have been inspiration too.
Sure.
It's not weird that the car is self-driving because we know this technology exists and I feel safe.
Yeah. Do you have any recollection or awareness of observing that cab or looking out the front window when you thought about it being self-driving?
Yeah, not the wheel part, but I do remember looking out the side window and there was a lot of trees and we were moving. So that's how I knew we were going.
Okay, good deal. And that was something you could see from where you were kind of seated in the back, hanging out?
Bed.
I think your audio kind of glitched a little bit there. I didn't catch it.
Oh yeah, I said we were in the middle back. Some of us were sitting on the bed, some of us were standing around it.
Okay, so actually the bed featured as a piece of furniture that you were occupying, or so who was sitting on the bed?
The husband. He was showing the DS, the tray.
And then you and your former roommate were both standing nearby?
Yeah.
Observing. Okay. And how did he produce it or share it or display it? What did that look like?
I don't actually think he brought out the actual the 3DS itself. He had the games on a tray, and the tray was gray. It's kind of like those plastic ones that have the raised edges so things don't fall out, but it's mostly flat, and then it's clear on the sides, but it was gray on the bottom. Like it was just colored.
Okay. So he had these games and he was actually kind of holding them out, offering them up for what did you get the sense of them being offered for?
play, like an option. Oh, like choose one of these games if you want to play them.
Did he say anything specific, or you just kind of knew what was happening?
I just knew.
Okay. That's how dreams work. Sometimes you just like, this is exactly what's happening. You just know it, and we take it for granted.
Actually, now that you mention that, I would distinctly know if someone said something and if I just understood.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, good deal. Do you remember the selection of games? I know you picked one, but what were some of the other games present?
That I'm just filling it in right now. None of them had games that I recognize in real life.
Okay.
They also, I don't remember them having any words, but if I were to pick two colors, one of them was a greenish one and another one red. But I'm worried the colors I'm filling in.
You might be after the fact. How many of them would you say there were on the tray? Two, just the two, or
I think two, like 2 to 3.
Okay.
But I don't remember there being more than that.
So not like a pile mounded up, but just a couple of options, an easily manageable, limited amount of options.
Yeah, and they were all laid flat on the tray, and there was a lot of space in between. Kind of like how you would place cookies on a baking sheet. It's like that spread out.
Okay. And did they seem very neatly arranged, or kind of like you just tossed them on there, or were they kind of actually very orderly?
I don't know. I just know they were all face up, so you could see the game. So it was like, if I were analyzing, someone must have placed it there on purpose.
It was definitely placed there by someone, maybe for a reason, and definitely in the context of the dream, you might say the husband had, made a nice display to make it a more pleasant experience to make a choice in that sense. Do you remember any interaction with the former roommate, his wife? Did she do anything with the games? She just observed, and it was kind of the situation in the dream was these are being offered to you specifically, and you did you feel what I'm trying to get the difference maybe between you felt obligated but hesitant to take one, or you were excited to take one, like this is going to be great. You were eager to take one versus feeling compelled to make a choice.
Oh, I was eager because I like to play games too, and in real life he has good game suggestions. So I was hoping to play one of these games.
And do you remember which one you picked? I mean, you mentioned a couple colors.
I can't remember. Yeah, so maybe I was filling in the colors.
Sure, that's fine. Do you have a visual image of selecting one from a particular place on the tray?
I just remember like a close-up of 2.
Yeah.
And I picked one of the 2. I can't remember if it was the right or the left.
Sure, and it may not matter.
Yeah.
Again, just rattling those doorknobs.
Mm-hmm.
So what were you thinking or feeling as you picked it up? Is that when you had that thought about eating it?
Yeah. I picked it up and I was like, it's going to go in my mouth now. And I also remember it tasting really good and really sweet. So I'm thinking of like cotton candy colors at that point. Like a nice blue, a nice pink. But I afterward, realized that, this.
And what was the experience of eating it like? I mean, did it crunch like plastic, or did it melt like cotton candy, or?
Yeah, it crunched like plastic, but it was sweet. And because the games are thin, it easily broke in my mouth.
Okay, I can't remember the size of the 3DS ones. They're just like an inch or something.
Yeah, well, we'll say like maybe even less than an inch.
Okay, really tiny, almost like a communion wafer, just real small.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Easy enough to chew up there. And how far into that process before you realized, wait a minute, that's not the right behavior that's not going to achieve the outcome I thought it would. Can you describe that a little more to me?
So I chewed it. I don't remember swallowing it. I just remember it tasting sweet.
Oh,
and then
I failed.
I was waiting for it to show up again on that tray, but it never did. And then I realized, oh, maybe it's like a Tide Pod thing where it looks pretty, but you weren't supposed to eat it.
Okay, so that's so your initial, just to run it through my head again too. It was the offering of the tray. You looked at it and you're like, oh, this is great. And as you pick it up, you're like, I eat it. That's of course I do. And it crunches, but it tastes sweet. And then you have this moment of confusion afterwards of like, it was supposed to reappear. Like that's the process you thought was going to play out, and it just didn't. So how long would you say all that took?
The waiting, I guess the regeneration period would have lasted about a minute. So 1 minute dream time.
Okay. Yeah, so it wasn't instantaneous. There was this there was a delay. There was a pause. You were waiting for, you're being patient with the process of like, okay, any minute now, let's I'll just hang on and wait. And then when you realized it wasn't happening, that it wasn't going to appear like it was supposed to, that's when you had the thought that you were supposed to do something else?
So because it wasn't showing up, I must have thought of some other logic that also didn't make much sense, but that was the one where dropping it off of the tray would regenerate it. And both that visual also happened in my dream, but I knew I didn't go through that action.
So kind of in a thought image inside the dream, you had a vision, so to speak, of what you should have done now that you realized it.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happened kind of immediately after that? Did the other characters, the husband and the roommate, respond to your behavior in any way? Did they have facial expressions or communicate anything to you?
No communication, and I know that because in my head I thought, uh-oh. It's that pre worry of how they're going to react. So they didn't react yet.
Okay.
But they saw me eat it, so I don't know. No one stopped me.
So you had kind of a sensation of being concerned about their judgment, but they didn't really respond in any way? Okay, and then that's after that you had the thought, I should probably buy him a new one. I think I just destroyed his game.
After feeling the guilt, then I thought I probably need to get them a new game. But I wasn't sure if they were going to ask for the game or if they were going to say, it's okay.
Okay. And you never actually got an answer from them about what they would prefer in that circumstance. You just had that feeling of, I should make this right somehow. But they never gave you feedback in the dream? Okay. And then that's when that kind of transitioned over into a new part of the dream where you started describing the distance you were traveling and the destination. How did that transition happen?
Cartridge, feel guilty, have that thought, and then suddenly I was thinking about the pinpoints on Google Maps, you know? So it was like I was searching on a computer right after that, or on my phone, like on the app.
And that is a distinct dream image you have, is now suddenly just scene cut to now I'm searching on my phone for the map.
It was either that or the conversation started of like, how long is it going to take? I can't remember right now which happened first.
Maybe we could just say a little bit about that too. Who spoke first in relation to expressing concerns about the distance or the time?
I think I asked, how long is it going to take? And someone responded, 11 hours. And then I said, that can't be true. It should only be 8 because here it is on the app. And then I searched the location in there, and it said 8-hour estimate. And then someone said, that's not the right place we're going.
Okay. Do you remember getting a sense of what the person thought about you having identified the wrong location? Any of that? Was their correction kind or judgmental?
I feel neutral. I didn't feel like there was... answering right now, I didn't feel like there was too much judgment, but I don't know. Now that you bring it up, there might have been.
Well, it could have been delivered in a way that felt very neutral and just informative. Like, no, not that one, this one. But you didn't get a sense of like, someone being mean about it, or someone being reassuring about it either. Like trying to either trying to hurt your feelings or preserve your feelings. They were just giving you facts.
Sure.
Okay, good deal. Just checking. And it was after you had this experience of discussing the map. I mean, is there more to that story? A little more details on now that you just, again, another scene cut and now more people are getting on? Because that was kind of the next section.
I guess the only visual would be I had the image of the maps, but then it went from looking at it like this and then into a different perspective where I saw the land flat and then the pinpoint.
Interesting. It's so you're did that happen on the screen where it flattened out, or you almost like third person sudden anyway, you can describe it. Go ahead.
That's right. It wasn't in the app, but I guess I went astral and left my body to see what it was actually like outside.
And it had that sense of seeing the real landscape, not a representation of it?
It was a representation because everything looked yellow like it does on Google Maps.
Yeah.
But it had the topography of and the bumps in the ground.
And maybe even kind of a 3D perspective of the pinpoints too, so you could kind of see one smaller than the other in the distance.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then pretty much right after you got that, in a way, bird's eye, isomorphic, in a way, kind of view. I don't know if that's the right word. That's just the first one that popped to mind. But that's when suddenly you are aware that the RV has stopped and new people are getting on?
I don't even know if the RV stopped. There were just people on there. Okay. Like, I don't remember the RV stopping to let people on. Just the next thing I knew, there were people in there and the RV still moving.
Okay. And you described these folks as two girls that you knew, a friend and that friend's roommate. So real people you knew. And then also one other person, the husband's friend.
More than one friend, but they were people that I didn't recognize and no facial.
Okay, fair enough. So there was actually maybe more people there. It was a rather sizable amount, more than just 3 new people got on.
Right.
Okay, and did you get a sense of why they had suddenly joined? What they were there to do or there for?
I knew that we were all going to the same place, but I wasn't. It wasn't so specific. It was just like, oh, they're coming with us now.
Okay. And what would you say these people were doing in terms of, did they immediately start mingling kind of, and it just had the vibe of a social gathering?
I'd say so. I remember, so aside from that bed in the living room, there were also these 2 beds that you could pull out from the wall, so it became like a bunk bed type thing. And the girls were hanging out over there. The guys were hanging around on the other bed area, probably playing Smash or something. But I had no visual of them over there. I was just talking to the girls.
Okay, and what was that interaction like? I mean, basically what you said was we were just having a good time, but what do you remember any specifics about the interaction, the subject matter of conversation, specific behaviors you were participating in together?
No, nothing on conversation, but we were all lounging on the bed, so we were just probably saying like, hey, how are you? I don't know, maybe like legs dangling over the other bed too. Very like Disney Channel-esque.
Okay, gotcha. Fair enough. And there, again, rattling doorknobs, there may or may not be anything specific in there that relates to anything. It could just be simply what it is. And people joined us and we started hanging out and talking because that's what people do. And it was almost immediately after that suddenly you're at some kind of a destination or other, like I think you might have just you said other stop, but like a truck stop kind of place, or
There were more establishments there. Like I mentioned, there was a hair salon, and then if you kept going down the street, there were businesses all along the side. So it was a town, but I don't know if that was our end destination.
Okay. And you remember seeing the hair salon from inside the RV, or you just saw the town and everything as you're stepping off? Kind of how did that happen physically in the dream?
Yeah, I stepped off and then saw the hair salon. That was the first thing on my left hand side. So that was the first place I went, probably because I needed to use the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. And did you get a sense of what any of the other people were doing on the RV?
No, I was the one venturing out first, at least for the girls, because they joined me later in the bathroom.
Okay. And do you remember walking in to the salon? Kind of what did that look like? How did that happen?
It was almost like a greenhouse looking thing, because I remember it was like blue tinted windows, but wall length. And then I entered through the door, and a group of people getting their hair cut to the front left of me, and then it went further back to my right. So I was just walking down the right hand side.
Okay. And then you had an interaction with the receptionist or one of the hairstylists?
Yeah, one of the hairstylists.
How did that go?
We were like facing each other. It didn't look like the hairstylist was doing too much, and I was just casually asking, like, hey, am I supposed to wear a mask in here? Because no one else is wearing one.
And that's when she told you, nah, we just stay 6 feet apart.
Yeah. And then she left me to my own means.
And that's when you kind of had that thought as well. Now, was this afterwards you had that thought, or at that moment you had the thought of like, I don't understand how that would work. I'm getting my hair cut, but we're 6 feet apart. Or was that afterwards you thought about that not making sense?
But still in the dream that I thought.
I think your audio cut out just a little bit there. I missed the first part. Go ahead.
I think it was after that conversation. I thought it was weird, but it was still within my dream.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, bringing this up reminds me of I think in China there was a woman who opened up a hair salon but had tools that would reach 6 feet away from her. So maybe I was channeling that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that could have been. But you didn't notice any of that kind of apparatus in there. And did you notice other stylists working and they were not 6 feet apart?
Don't have an imagery of that apparatus, and there were people getting their hair done, but like all the chairs were 6 feet apart, but I didn't see stylists actively working with their clients. Like the clients were kind of like waiting for their hair to dry or have their hair in that like tub, this bucket thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any action. I just saw people.
Okay. And then that was the moment at which you're like, the stylist wandered off and you're like, okay, bathroom.
Basically.
And then that's when, do you remember your friends coming in behind you, or they only joined you when you actually reached the bathroom door?
You bring that out because I remember the bathroom having two entrances on different sides. I came in from the back side because I had walked in and talked to the hair stylist. So I went in from the back, and it just so happened that the other girls joined, and they immediately went toward the bathroom, so they entered in from the front side. So we were entering in from opposite sides, but at the same time. I don't even remember if I told them to come in. They were probably wondering why I wasn't coming out and then just needed to use the bathroom too.
Sure. Could have been. Do you remember having any interaction with them prior to, say, going into a stall by yourself, or you were just aware they were there and you went to do your thing while they did their thing?
Acknowledgement. There was no conversation that I can recall.
Okay.
Not even a hand wave. I don't think.
Okay. And then you picked stall on your own, and you had this thought process of feeling the need to alter the way you use the toilet. And it was a deviation from your norm. Looking back on it, you can say that was weird. But in the dream, you were like, did you have a thought process of, I'm going to do this differently on purpose, and what the motivation for that might have been?
I knew it was going to be a deviation, and thinking on it now, I think it's because most ladies squat over the toilet. That might have subconsciously peer pressured me into doing it in my dream. Maybe I was like testing it in my dream and then knew it was going to fail, so I'm like even more sure that I shouldn't do it.
Yeah, so that is an interesting thing, and I don't want to dwell too much on. Well, it's all dream imagery, so I'm not going to be shy about any of it either. But the idea of that experience and the change in behavior and the context might be relevant. So you had the sense of, okay, I'm going to do this thing, but this time I'm going to do it differently, and it seems like it was in some way related to an expectation of doing something the right way or the way other people do it. And then your experience was doing it wrong or poorly, or the outcome not being favorable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyone who listens to these whole things can see why I chop out this section sometimes. Just long periods of me writing. I should hold it up here and there we go. That actually came through. Maybe I should record something like that, little sounds of me scribbling, and I can edit it back in.
Really ASMR. Someone's going to like it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I should just do a whole video of nothing but a microphone really close to me writing my chicken scratch. That might be pretty cool. I don't know who's going to watch it. I would be surprised. That'll be my top video, right?
It's going to happen.
Right?
When you least expect.
One of those weird random things, it's for sure. And then it was after you had, say, made a mess, like using the process you were unfamiliar with, that you noticed that your menses had started. Was that part of the mess that was created?
It was mess created, and then I saw blood.
Okay.
Like, oh, one bad thing happened, and now on top of that, this thing happened.
Yeah, and it I don't know that it means anything, but very often it does. That there's a sequence to these events, that one section triggers another or precedes another for a reason related to the next section, and behaviors like that too. So, and it was at that point that you realized, oh, I can take care of this. I didn't bring any with me, but there's more in the RV. I can go get what I need. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, there was a feeling of panic and like, oh, dang it, I didn't bring something with me, like on my person. But some saving grace of like, oh, for very unrelated reasons, I have something that will save me.
Yeah. So you mentioned in real life that you're selling a product to someone, and that might have been why it was in the dream. Do you remember what you were thinking in the dream of why the supplies were in the RV?
Exactly. Well, actually, I don't know if I filled that information in later, but I when I recorded my dream right after waking up, I said, oh, because I'm selling it, I have it.
Okay.
So it was the same reason as in real life.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And you mentioned that was pretty much the end, but that there was some running around inside the store. When in the dream in general would you say that happened, and how were you aware of it? Oh, I think your audio's messed up. Oh, no. Sorry. Just one more time. It just didn't pick you up quite.
Yeah. I think it was probably after I talked to the hair salon person and she said we don't wear masks. That might have triggered some panic. And then I remember running, but that running didn't lead to another sequence. It went straight to the bathroom scene.
Okay. So you now kind of thinking back on it, you have this impression that having her inform you that they don't wear masks there led you to want to rush to the bathroom?
Yeah, away from that situation, just, for safety reasons.
Okay. Did anyone else run? Was there like a bunch of people running to and fro, or just you?
Yeah, it was me and the other girls, and we were running in kind of random patterns, like back and forth around the hair salon.
Did you get a sense that they were disturbed, upset, panicky as well, fearful?
Say similar feeling to me.
Okay, and then that's when basically all of you ended up in the bathroom together. Was the conclusion of that portion?
I don't know if it was conclusion or actually, because now that I'm saying it, I remember thinking the bathroom was a place of solace. So maybe I was running away from the non-masked people.
Sure. I think there seems to be something connected there. One thing following another, in a style of a trigger of things happening. Do you remember going to the RV and getting what you need at the very end, or just the awareness that it was present and wake up?
Exactly.
Okay. It's 45. I forgot to mark the beginning here. There we go. I usually put a timestamp. Oh, that's okay. I can find it easy enough. Well, here's an interesting thing you probably didn't think was going to happen. I'll show you this. This is, let's see if I can do it. Yeah. This is a lot more content than you probably thought was going to be in the dream. All of these pages.
Wow, that's so many papers worth.
I know. We're on page 6 right now. Well, this is why, like I said, why I'm going back and forth on whether to cut out this middle bit, because we get a lot of great details. Like the first portion, just 2 pages, and then the rest of it, and I write really big, and chicken scratchy, but there's a lot of, and then I put little carrots next to things. I'm like, let's come back to that. But so now that we've reached this end of the second pass, the deep dive, where we get real specific on things, I like to stop and ask people, as that was happening, did you get any epiphanies about, oh, that, and it connected something, or it feels significant to you? How do you what do you got there?
I might have had this dream with husband and roommate. This might have been us trying to go to their like joint bachelorette party, because I'm her bridesmaid, and the other friend that I was close to also bridesmaid, so it's the 3 of us. But we weren't able to have a celebration this year due to COVID.
Oh.
And so even though they're married now, like, all the festivities didn't get to happen. So as I was saying it to you, I was like, why are all these people here? And why would I bring in husband's friends? It's probably, those are his 2 best men that I don't know. So
okay, fair enough.
That was the only big connection, I think.
I think that's a great place to start. So there's the imagery of the dream, and there's the events of the dream, but then there's also the motivation for the dream. So there's something about where you're at in your head lately that's saying, I wish we could have done this thing. We had these plans, and now you're kind of playing out the scenario in your head of, in a way, wish fulfillment of, if we had been able to do it, this might have been something it would look like. So that might be the motivation for but then the next question would be, why are you having this desire that you're expressing at this time? What is it it's going on in your daily life that makes you miss the fact that didn't happen, or that I don't know. Does that bring any connections to your mind?
Well, I mean, I miss going outside and hanging out with people on a normal basis, and I think most people do these days. I'm not sure. It's not like I have talked to my previous roommate more recently. Actually, I have. I've been messaging her more frequently, so maybe that's why she was on top of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I in a previous voice chat or video chat with all 3 of us, like the bride and the bridesmaids.
Okay.
The husband like popped in for a little bit, so maybe because his like face was fresh in my mind. It was there.
You got this whole cast of characters came back a little more crisply very recently, and just in general, I think if I were to not put words in your mouth, but you're maybe feeling a little disconnected, isolated because of the circumstances lately, and wishing for more socialization. So your dreams, again, in a kind of wish fulfillment type of way, is like, let's explore, let's give myself that experience in this dream.
Now that you bring that up, one other thing to mention. So I usually live with, the roommate moved out, so another roommate moved in, but that person is not here right now. Like they're back at their parents' place. So maybe because I was alone, I dreamt that we were all hanging out again
Oh
in
yeah,
the living room.
not just general isolation, but specific personal isolation. Like I'm in the house alone. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that makes a lot of sense to me. As far as the general motivation for where this dream may have started. Uh, Anything else stand out to you? Like moments of tickles of significance?
I'm just wondering why Canada. I think I mentioned the other day, oh, it'd be really nice to vacation in Canada or like even move there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is, and I made carrots next to the idea of, and we don't have to take things chronologically, so we'll bounce back and forth. There's something going on with the destination north, and that it's a far destination, but kind of more importantly, there's actually a kind of a theme going on with the cartridge, with the destination, with the bathroom, where you're. And again, I don't want to put words in your mouth or describe it poorly, but kind of acting impulsively or without thinking things through fully, and then being corrected or having, so with the cartridge, that wasn't the right thing to do. With the map, you picked the wrong point. It's actually over here. And then with the bathroom, changing your behavior to try and fit in and having having things turn out poorly. What do you think when you kind of connect those dots across the whole dream?
I mean, you bringing it up and pulling those out, I think I could connect one or two things to that. So the first one being at work, I like to work quickly, efficiently, quickly, whichever one you want to choose. But I tend to work too quickly that I make one or two mistakes, or like I invite the wrong person to a meeting, for example, or I want to be so proactive, but sometimes at work you're supposed to like slow down. So when you say impulsive, that's what comes to mind. And then another thing is I do want to travel the world, once everything settles down. And I know that's like that is coming up in my timeline, like being able to move out of this apartment and work remotely elsewhere. But I don't have a set plan for that. I just know that I'm going to do it. Like I want to, I know I'm going to do it, but there's no itinerary yet. So that could be another thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's two kind of layers of things going on with the map situation. And one is the broad theme of second guessing your choices or regretting mistakes or reminding yourself that sometimes you got to slow down and think things through and make sure you're doing it right. So there is that. But now that's also layered on top of this idea of you haven't settled on a destination yet for your travels. And so you're probably in the state of mind where you're like, because you haven't decided where to go, like I say, layered on top of that idea of being careful with your decisions. You have this dream, it seems to me, dream representation of identifying the wrong location, but having, say, your friends with you as support, and they correct you. They help you make a good decision. So have you been talking to your friends about where to go, where to settle as your next leg of the journey?
I have. I told them, my goal is to travel abroad for like a year-ish, and they're like, wow, that's so exciting. But I know they themselves would not take the big leap like I am. Like I'm saying a year, they're probably thinking more like 1 month max.
Sure.
So
they just want to dip their toes in the water. You want to go for a swim.
Yeah.
For sure. And you're probably, just, and that's a good thing to be, is cautious about your decision making, your planning. It's a big deal to say, go abroad. Do you have the money? And more importantly, where are you going to go and why? Maybe you really want to go to Canada. I don't know. Maybe that's a good first stop.
That's interesting. Well, I met someone who is from Canada in one of my abroad trips. 2 years back. She was
Yeah.
really nice. So now I think I keep thinking about Canada.
For sure. Yeah. And that could be the dream representation of here is a place you have positive associations with that you could imagine going there as a place you would enjoy being. So that would be the party bus destination for this scenario of if I got back together with my friends, or if we had been able to have this party we were planning, why not go to Canada, and have that be the trip?
At least it's drivable.
For sure. Yeah. You don't have to get on a boat or a plane or that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Anything else kind of come to mind as a significant feeling of that was important or that was disturbing, that stood out to me in a way that I want to focus on?
Not disturbing, and I don't know if it was important, but the game cartridge tasting sweet. That was weird to say.
Very strange. Yeah, like I love
Yeah.
making sense of that kind of weird stuff, and that's actually something I was going to come back to, is isolating some of the. We got a little bit of a theme, but if we apply that general theme to the idea, what would that instance of decision making be telling you? I suppose. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that even mistakes can have elements of them that are pleasant. So it's like the idea of, oh wait, I wasn't supposed to do that, but it tastes good. I guess it wasn't so bad. Does that bring anything to mind?
I like that interpretation. I do like playing video games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's weird why I wouldn't logically put it in the 3DS and play it, but maybe I wanted another experience of the game.
Yeah. And it is interesting. So you've got the husband sitting on the bed and he's offering you a tray. So there's a lot of specific images in there, and the wife is kind of silent and just observing or present. And you ate it with the understanding or the belief that it was going to reappear, so that you could somehow consume this offering, and that was the right thing to do, and that it was going to result in the original item reappearing and not being consumed. And I wrote this down too, that what you realized was that the proper course of action was to brush it aside, and that is what would resolve the situation properly. So there's something in there about eating it, realizing it was the wrong thing to do, but that the right thing was to brush it aside. So there's something in there of taking in, consuming. Maybe it's sweet, but it's not the right choice. And what you should have done is not rejected it, but brushed that idea of brushing things to the side. You knock it off the edge of the tray. I don't know if there's something in there that speaks to you in that symbolism.
Well, first of all, that was really great symbolism.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, was it because eating it was too permanent, and you can't get it back?
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of before you went into consuming and brushing it aside was like, oh, I really like this game, Breath of the Wild. It's Legend of Zelda.
I've heard good things. Haven't played it yet.
Oh, 100%
recommended. Gotcha.
The thing is,
Serena
you play
approved.
it, and yes, you play it and you love it, but how can you play it again without remembering everything that happened? I feel like magic's a little bit ruined. Like, there is replayability, but there's something about already knowing what's going to happen that sort of ruins it a little.
Yeah. No, so there's something there. That connection, I think you're onto something. And that has to do with consuming. So once something's been consumed, a media product, a cookie, you described as like cookies on a tray. So you can't undo that. What is seen cannot be unseen type of situation. And there's something bittersweet about that. Like, you're so happy you had the experience, and that has closed the door forever on being able to experience it for the first time. I don't know if there's something else going on in your life lately where you wish what am I trying to say? That there's experiences you're not regretting, but what do they call it? Nostalgia? You're having nostalgic feelings for stuff that happened recently or in the distant past?
I have been feeling nostalgic. As I alluded earlier, I will be moving out of this apartment, probably
Yeah.
out of San Francisco for the near future. So the other day, I sometimes I make videos, I guess vlogs, but I don't talk in them. I'm just like taking videos of things I see. And I was thinking like, oh, I should do a love letter to San Francisco before I leave. So I've been taking videos of like Golden Gate Park, or if I'm biking down one street that I'm very fond of.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, that idea of nostalgia came to me pretty strongly. Yeah, like what is that feeling when you've because I've had that too. I mean, I love it with good. Like I can never see the movie The Matrix again for the first time. That blew my mind. Ooh, I'm like, what is this? The best thing I've ever seen. And then I have that same feeling too. Oh, I wish I could go back. If I what is it? Philip K. Dick, the author, he wrote a few stories, and one of them famously, I think, was called Paycheck, where the guy takes a paycheck to have his memory wiped, and the first thing he does is try and figure out what the hell did I just agree to have erased, and he goes on this mission, this journey to get it back. That's another thing that came to my mind. I love those stories of if I could erase an experience just so I could have it again, would I do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I might.
If anything, it would be for this video game. I feel like that's very low stakes.
No, that's okay. You have very strong connections to it. I mean, I'm so old. The Matrix, I saw it in the theater in 1999. And that's when I started playing EverQuest for the first time. And there will never be another MMO that hits me like that, like this. It was my first 3D looking out of your character's eyes, running around in the landscape. You can look up, down, left, right. There's all kinds of things to see and do. I've spent a lot of my gaming career past that point trying to recapture that magic. And I'm like, it's just, nothing's ever been the same. Nothing's blown me away like that.
Yeah. It's hard. Once you have your favorite, it's like, how do you top that?
That's true. Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like we explored the video game cartridge experience vignette sufficiently to kind of get a handle on some of the weird elements?
Yeah. So like, if I were just telling someone else's story, I'd be like, oh, I ate it. It was sweet. We'd laugh and then move on. But now that we're saying that it's a feeling of nostalgia, or
Here
you
he is.
experience it once and then the magic is you experience it once and the magic is gone. I think that's sufficient.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, I didn't want to cut it off or drag it on too long because there's some of the other elements here. I suppose the only other, just to put a pin in that, the last thing I put a note on was the idea that of the waiting to see the results. I think there's something in you that's reflective, patient. You take the time to observe and see what happens in order to judge the results. And then, it could have been a success or a failure, but there was something important in that self-reflection. You gave it a minute. You had the experience of giving it a full minute to let the process play out and see what the results would be. So I thought that was something important enough to mention.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for
noticing. I guess you're the only one who can tell me if that's accurate for your personality or not.
Yeah. What first comes to mind is it takes me a while to understand my emotions, like maybe 1 or 2 days to process everything. So
fair enough.
In that sense, yeah, reflective. I journal sometimes, and I like having conversations of like, what did this mean? Like, why did I act this way? Stuff like that. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that's what I call meditating on something or letting it percolate. That's my favorite because I drink coffee like too much probably, but you got to wait for it to brew. It's not coffee until the water goes through. It takes time and you can't rush that process. It is what it is. So I think that's one of my most powerful metaphors. Got to let it percolate. Let your thoughts
I love that. I'm probably going to steal it.
It's kind of like baking bread. Got to wait for the yeast to rise, that kind of thing too. Where does that leave us here? Oh, I suppose I keep trying to like button that thing, but another thing I mentioned is that this feeling of responsibility for the outcome as well and wanting to make it right. I just wanted to highlight that too. The idea that you had that experience in the dream of saying, this didn't work out so well. Maybe I should buy him a new game. I should replace what was damaged or destroyed or fix the mistake in some other way that makes it right for the other people around me. That seems to be something strong within you, that you would have that. You wouldn't just brush it off and say, well, fuck it. You could have had that experience in the dream. That would mean something else. But you seem to be, does that resonate with you too? You're typically a person who wants to do the right thing, take care of others well.
Yeah, I do. Yes to both your statements, like do the right thing, go buy the book. If I don't want to have someone yell at me, if I know I can fix myself before they tell me I'm wrong.
You can anticipate the criticism. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, sorry, what was the second thing you mentioned?
Making it right, taking care of other people, treating them well. Just that general theory.
Yeah, I am like a person of service. Like acts of service is my love language. So wanting to do things for other people and making sure they feel right. I also want others to like me. I think that's a personality trait that, you can say is flawed. Like a
little bit of people pleasing.
Yes, exactly. People pleasing. So I don't want people to have negative feelings of me, even if it's pretty small. Like, oh, they ate my cookie. I would feel bad if I accidentally ate someone else's cookie that they left out.
Yeah, I was saving that for me. How could you? And then they feel terrible, and you feel terrible, and
so terrible.
No, I get that too. And of course, these are all normal human emotions. That it's just, why do they show up in the dream? As it relates to our specific circumstances. So I'm definitely the same way. There's boundaries for me where I don't care if anyone agrees. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. I would never violate that line. And then there's other things where it's a lot more flexible, where it's like, so if someone's mad at me because I wouldn't violate a boundary, they can deal with it and fuck them. But if it's something else where it's more social, there's all this gray area around people's emotions that are very complex and difficult for me in terms of social relationships. So I in some ways, I do also tend to be a people pleaser. I want people to have a positive experience of having interacted with me, at the very least. But then it's negotiating where's the boundaries of, like, does that obligate me to do certain things or not? So I get where you're coming from on that. Yeah.
I did feel that obligation to pay them back.
Yeah, which I think is in some ways a social aspect. I mean, but it was more, I think, from your description and from talking to you, that it was more of a correcting a mistake that was your responsibility. Like this wasn't a gray area of someone else had a feeling and you gave in. This was more like, well, I did that, I better make it right. So it was taking responsibility type of thing, which is, a little bit different than the purely social people pleasing aspect. Then again, the idea that section happened and then at the end you're in the bathroom and you did change your behavior in a kind of people pleasing sense. You felt there was an expectation of you to modify your habits, and something in your mind was telling you, here's what happens if you give in to that feeling. It makes a mess. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that resonates with you, if you have any thoughts about it.
I think over the years, and what other people have been telling me, is like, you can't be responsible for other people's feelings. So whether you try or you don't try to amend whatever you did, they're still going to feel however they feel, and you can't help that.
It's very true. And that's a struggle for me too. This idea of, I want to be kind. I want to be respectful. I want to treat people well. But there is that balancing point of behavior that I'm responsible for, say doing things intentionally or not. There's malicious, which is of course is bad and wrong, but then there's accidental. and they do have an effect on people. And that's, again, there's that boundary line of how much of other people's emotions are we really responsible for? Because our behavior does impact people, but they are the person experiencing it, and they need to also know how to deal on their own, and need to know other people can't make us responsible for their emotional state. That ends up in like emotional hostage taking. You'll do this if you love me type of stuff, and that's clearly wrong. But then there are expressions that we want to communicate love to people through, as you were saying, caretaking. And I'm wondering if this end portion of the dream, we got another cat laying on all the papers. Hi, CC boy. the real stars of the show finally appeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, there seems to be something wrapped up in that with the idea of the bathroom, and that even in a place out of view, a private place where actually no one's going to see you, you still had this urge or felt compelled to do something differently. And then you were kind of reminding yourself, or had the experience that it didn't work out very well through lack of experience, or maybe because it wasn't what you're used to. I don't know if that's ringing any bells for you. If you have any recent experience along those lines of trying something different because someone recommended it, but you were uncomfortable with doing it, but you gave it a try. I don't know if that's bringing anything to mind.
I think I am generally uncomfortable with, maybe because we were talking about all the stuff earlier, it's bringing up, but like me having my own boundaries and not letting, I'm not saying I'm a pushover, but I think I do care a lot about what other people think, so it's uncomfortable when I do the opposite and put myself first. So that's one thing. And then I feel like someone did talk about squatting in the bathroom the other day, so that's why, maybe that's how it manifested in my dream.
Yeah, it's definitely these circumstances where there's real life examples that then trigger thoughts, and then later we process the thoughts related to the example, and it's giving you that idea. Yeah, so it seems like this is generally something you're still figuring out your comfort zone with, where you want your boundaries to be, and in a way that is both respecting yourself and respecting others, because it can't be all one or the other. That doesn't work. It's got to be that middle point. I love the yin yang symbol. That's one of my favorite. Yeah. I remember telling a friend that's as far as I know, it's one of the earliest names for God. Is that idea of duality. Anyway, not to get religious or anything, but it's that ancient in human memory, the balance of opposites and the shifting of the line between two different opposing points of view, or light and dark, etc. Anyway, I can go on about that stuff for too long, but boundaries is very much a yin yang situation, is because both things are important, and there is a line, and it can move, but it has to be there, and it's gonna be important that it works for everyone involved.
You meant in the last 30 seconds, I also thought of when we say balance, I mentioned I want to travel abroad for a year. Well, I haven't told my parents yet, so maybe that might be how do I say, I'm 25, I feel like I'm old enough to make decisions, but I also know that they're going to say no, it's dangerous out there.
They're going to worry about you.
Yeah. I mean, as all parents would do, I'm not saying that they shouldn't worry about me, but how do I live my life without being in their domain? How do I say this? They're I want them to approve of what I do and be proud of me, but I also don't want them to worry about me, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's deeply conflicting. And in either way is like brushing aside their feelings is to you. And I would agree, like wrong. You care about them. You don't want to hurt them. But at the same time, you can't live completely for them and cut out your own desires for experience. So yeah, it seems like this dream in general is bringing together a lot of recent experiences, and in that broader theme of decision making and balance between taking care of yourself, living for yourself, and living in relationship with others and family. And that's a tough. That's no wonder you're dreaming about it. You're probably gonna need to let it percolate a few more days.
Oh yeah, maybe like another month or two.
For sure. Yeah. And that's the good news. It's the house isn't on fire. You don't have to run for the hills right away. You can give it time, and hopefully maybe some more dreams will come to you and help you draw a better picture of what it is you're looking for and where to draw that line. Yeah.
So interesting. Because I normally just say the dream and then forget about it, but the fact that dreams can help direct me to what I truly want, or how I not should act, but it's just reflective,
For sure. I like to describe it as like dreams don't tell you what to do. They tell you what you're thinking. In that way, it's like helping you identify the right question. Then you can look for an answer. I scared the cat. Sorry, Sonny boy. Yeah. And that's what I do. Leave people with more questions than answers.
Nature of science.
It's good times. Well, if you feel like we covered some pretty good ground, I mean, we can go over more stuff, or we can wrap it up and call it an episode. What do you think?
That was really great. Thank you so much. First of all, I'll leave it up to you because I could go further, but honestly, at this point, I think that it was a solid amount.
Okay, good deal. Yeah. Well, then I will just say first, because I always forget to do this on the damn episodes. Thank you to my guest, Serena, for being here, and specifically thanking you in light of the fact that you've got your own content out there. And so this, once again, for people watching me, all 10 of you, this is Serena, host of the Dream Diaries, a Dreamcast, available on iTunes, Spotify. She's got Instagram at Dream Diaries, Dreamcast. And yeah, I'm really happy you were here, and I appreciate it.
So happy to be here, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll just say, hey, everyone, that's it. Like, share, subscribe. Maybe I'll have merch one day. I got podcasts on a website, all that good stuff. And for now, I'll just say thanks for joining us for another episode of Dreamscapes.